Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Jazakallah khair for joining me for today's video. So I'm going to go through Mad at-Tabi'i. I know that I have 4 here, but I'll go through them in a separate video. So the first mud that I'm going to focus on today is Mad at-Tabi'i. Mad at-Tabi'i is basically to do with your short and long vowels. Here you have the short vowels, and then here you have your long ones. If we go to the actual details of this type of mud, you will see mud of Salah Tabi'i, which is this mud here. It counts for 2. So this is a long vowel that counts for 2. But your short vowel, which is the fatha, the dhamma, and the kasra, is your normal pronunciation. It is not elongated, whereas the long voweling, it is elongated for 2. So what's the difference between the two? Well, if we look back at our brainstorm here, what you notice is the short vowel is represented by a fatha, which is a. The short vowel of dhamma is u. The short vowel of kasra is e. So a, u, e. But your long vowel, if you notice, it has no marking or harakat on it. When I say harakat, I mean any vowels. So the alif does not have a fatha on it. The waw will have no dhamma on it, and the ya will have no kasra under it. It has no other marking on it, so it's completely standing alone. So it's a letter that stands alone without any type of marking on that. Your short vowels, they are markings themselves. So this is a fatha, dhamma, and kasra, and they represent a short vowel. Your mud letters, which is your alif, waw, and ya. So the actual letters alif, waw, and ya are referred to as the letters of mud. When these letters are preceded by their matching voweling, you will elongate that sound or that vowel. So I'm more concerned about the short vowel, but preceding the actual mud letter here. So if I focus here, you have the fatha, and after the fatha, it's an alif, which is a letter of mud. You have your dhamma, and then after the dhamma, it is a waw. You have your kasra, and after the kasra, you have a ya. So the letters of mud are preceded by a matching vowel. So the vowel of alif is fatha, the vowel of the vowel is dhamma, the vowel of ya is a kasra. So it matches, the short vowel matches the long vowel, and the short vowel will always precede the long vowel, if that makes sense. So again, short vowels precede the long vowels. You'll always see a mud letter that stands alone, and before it, it will have a matching vowel. So if I have a mud of alif, I will not have a kasra. Okay, I won't have a kasra under it. If this alif is blank, that doesn't mean a normal alif. This means an alif which is blank, which has nothing on it, and it comes under the letter of mud. It's a mud letter. I'm going to elongate it twice. So if I go back here, so I say a, u, e. These are the short vowels. The long ones are a, u, e. You see, I'm doing 2 counts, and that's different. So here, qala, yaquli, qila. I am elongating. I'm elongating the pronunciation of my mud. I'm saying it with 2 counts. Again, I'm saying it with 2 counts. But a normal harakat, a normal fatha, a normal dhamma, and a normal kasra, which is your short vowel, I cannot make them long because that's incorrect. I can't say oh, this is incorrect. I have to say o, e, short. Then the long ones, the long vowels are o, e. So that is the difference between a short vowel and your long vowel. Remember, the long vowels will be preceded by a matching vowel. So you'll have an alif that is always preceded by a fatha, and the alif should stand alone, have no markings on that. You have your waw, which will always be preceded by the dhamma, which is this sign, and your waw will be standing alone. You have then your ya, which will always be preceded by a kasra, and the actual ya will be standing alone. Don't worry too much about the letters that have the matching vowel for the long vowels. So don't worry about this letter. This could be any letter. It doesn't have to be a qaf. It doesn't have to be a qaf. I know that in this example you have qaf throughout. It doesn't have to be qaf. It could be any letter. The condition is on that letter, do you have a matching vowel for the long vowel? Does it represent a long vowel? And if the answer is yes, then you will elongate it. So you have a mud letter, and before it, you will have the matching vowel for that long mud letter. I hope that makes sense, inshallah. So again, mud letters that are sula sughra, they will be elongated for 2 counts. And the short vowels, which is your harakats at top, which is your fatha, your dhamma, and your kasra, which is these signs here that I'm pointing to. And we've seen them in our spider diagram, sitting there all alone. Here you have that short vowels here. So these are short, and the actual letters are the long vowels. There's no hamza before it, and there is no hamza and sukoon after it. There are other mud letters that are dependent upon, or conditional mud letters, due to the hamza or the sukoon. And inshallah, I'm going to discuss them in a separate video. But for today, or for this time, all we want to really do is focus on the letter of mud. Now, there is another video that I will tag along with this video in the description below. And it's really good idea to have a look at that. And it really goes into detail in explaining the difference between the mud letters and the letters of harf leen, because they could get really confusing. So harf leen is completely different to the letters of mud. So please do have a look at that video, just so that you are clear about the differences. Jazakallah for watching. Wa alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.